Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I want to talk about SoFi, specifically 2026. Of course, I do have a very aggressive price target out there on SoFi for 2026 of $65. Might have been a little bit too aggressive given comments that came out today from SoFi's Fireside Chat. It's part of the reasons why the stock ended up pulling back just a little bit. Long term, things look absolutely beautiful for SoFi. Even short term, there's tons of catalysts. Things look great too. I'm not changing my price target, but the year is going to look a little bit different than what we expected. And we just got a really excellent glimpse on it from the CFO, Chris Lapointe. Let's take a look right quick. Now, this tool right here is Fiscal AI. It's one of those tools that I've been using for a little while now, and they are a sponsor of this video. They are a tool that the only sponsor I've ever had, and a big part of this is just because I'm very careful to not recommend or suggest things that I'm not sure about or I wouldn't use or I don't know that would be a good fit for the audience. So this is what the tool looks like right here. And let's pull up SoFi. And you can see right here, by the way, USB's 2025 Global Technology. We could just start playing that. We can look at transcripts as well. There's other ways to get to this too, but this is exactly what came out today from Chris Lapointe. Now, the nice thing with this is if you're busy and you're too much time, you don't have enough time to go through the transcript, which is about 27 minutes long. You can listen to it as well at a faster speed. Skipping the Q&A, it's all Q&A here. So, but you can see the highlights right here, and there's quite a few different takeaways. Or you can ask it for a custom summary as well on something specific. So, a lot of this is just kind of what we knew about where SoFi was at as a business, highlights from this last year as well. And so they went through part of this as well. Unaided brand awareness, by the way, is up to about 9%. Now, the big thing that's a lot different is we're going to see, actually, I'm going to do a custom summary. What did they say about 2026? And you're going to see I could just Control F and look for it as well, but sometimes you're dealing with a longer transcript, and we're going to pull this up. So here is that custom summary. It says the company has provided an EPS guide for 2026, noting that the low end of this range signifies a high growth scenario. This reflects a current period of substantial investment. So let's pull that up, 2026. And yeah. So this is from Chris Lapointe, and he said, one thing that I would note is Anthony made mention this a few firesides ago. The EPS guide that we gave for 2026, the low end of that range represents a high growth scenario, and we're certainly in that time now. We're investing extremely heavily right now in all those areas that I just mentioned, but we're also delivering meaningful and outsized returns. And he talks more about that as well. Now, the context of that question is this was SoFi's internal guide point that they put out where they said 70% of each incremental dollar that they add is going to be reinvested back into the business to help them grow over the long term. Again, they're not trying to optimize EPS at this point. And so as a result, he said, because we're shifting into high growth mode and continuing in high growth range as well, that means there's investment on that front side, which is why we're looking at the lower range of that EPS. So where is SoFi as far as estimates from analysts? Let's take a look and see what this might imply. We can do quarterly as well, but I'm just going to leave it on annual. You can see 2025 is mostly in the books here. For 2026, we can see this range. And by the way, you can see the breakout of these numbers here below as well. This is for revenue. What we're wanting is EPS specifically here as well. So here's 2025. It's still an E because it's estimated. Here's 2026 as well. And you can look at these EPS trends over the long term that they tend to be revised upward, although that's not always the case with 2023's numbers. It has been pretty consistently for a while. Now, part of that is they've just been outperforming. They have a lot of tailwinds as a business as well. But more than that, they tend to guide very conservatively, and analysts either believe them or don't even believe the very soft guidance that they put out. So SoFi, the lower end of the range that they put out previously was 55 cents for 2026. If we look at analyst range, we're at 47 cents to 73 cents. I'm not sure why any analyst out there would put lower than the lowest range of guidance that SoFi puts out there, but there are a few analysts out there that just insist on that SoFi is absolutely terrible and garbage and nobody should invest in it. I mean, that's basically where they're at here. So you can see the low is right there. There's the high and the actual medium. Our median, depending on which average you want to use, is actually a little bit north of 55 cents. So It may be that we see estimates be revised slightly down. I am guessing just because SoFi tends to guide pretty conservatively anyway, that this isn't going to shift the needle much, except for maybe whoever is on the low range there, just because they obviously don't quite fully understand what's happening with SoFi. So maybe they'll revise it. We might see a little bit of price action as a result on the downside. That was probably the only thing that I saw in the fireside chat that stood out that the market probably didn't like immediately. Now, again, this isn't a bad thing. This is them saying we have an opportunity here to grow the business and be a lot more resilient in the future. And we're going to go after those growth opportunities, especially while the sun is shining. There's that whole saying, make hay while the sun shines. That's what they're doing. And I love it as a long-term investor. Over the short term, what that means is their EPS is not going to be as high next year. And so perhaps we won't see SoFi get into that higher range that I expected, the mid 60s. At the end of the year. That would be, although I think that we're going to be close, if not all the way there, there's just immense tailwinds. Now, beyond that, we also got a great glimpse as far as what SoFi is looking at and working on. There's a lot of talk on crypto. There's a lot of talk on their stablecoin differentiation as far as like what they can see as terms of adoption from institutions, from the SoFi stablecoin, the goals and ambitions that are there as well. But they talked probably more than, and a little bit about tech platform, by the way, too, but they talked more than anything, I believe, about lending. Lending is a big part of SoFi, and the loan platform business is part of that picture, even if it is part of financial services. So if we look here, we can really see, this is, by the way, looking at KPIs here in, is the way that I got to this initially. And then you can select, or by the way, if you're using this tool and you can't find the measure that you're looking at or the metric, you just type right in there and it'll pull it up for you. So regardless, yeah, you have the KPIs that are all across the board. Here I like the lending origination volume for personal loans, student loans, and home loans as well. So if we go back up to the top, I decided these are all things you can change. I put them in stacked bar chart. I could do separate bar charts as well, but I thought stacked worked nicely here. And let's look at this on a quarterly basis instead. Annual is okay, especially when it's looking at last 12 months, but quarterly might tell us a little bit more. So you can see from these three different lending segments that we are looking at, of course, the most for personal loan origination. It shouldn't shock us for that. Second most, of course, is that we're looking at student loans and then lending origination as well. Now, we can also add in, basically, this is the growth rates and the growth amounts year over year. And you can take a look at those. I might have to adjust this chart a little bit. Yeah, it's okay. Let's hide these right. Remove that right quick. And we'll hide this as well. And we'll hide this one too. All right, so we're just looking at these three and the growth rate numbers. And we can see that they're all really about the same. Well, not about the same, but they're all really doing nicely. This is a good environment to be lending into. And loan origination there, certainly for home loans, is up substantially, but that is off of a smaller base. So in essence, what they said about each of these is that there's a big opportunity. With the home loans specifically, Chris Lapointe said that only 2% of SoFi members actually do their home loans and home mortgages through SoFi. So he talked about, of course, wanting to capture and needing to capture more. They're going to be doing a lot of marketing spend related to that. So if you're already a SoFi member and you're not doing your mortgage through SoFi, you're going to be getting a lot of notifications, a lot of opportunities as well. They'll, of course, be going outside for non-SoFi members too. But it sounds like mostly that they're focusing on growing that flywheel and making it even more efficient by doing things like this as well. So opportunity there, especially as rates fall a little bit as well, although it might take years or several years for that to heat up. We talked about home equity loans that they're doing now as well, that they'll increase those over time, and also student loans. So they have a great opportunity there with Grad Plus loans, for instance, as one thing that was called out by Chris Lapointe. In fact, let's go ahead and bring that up right quick because what he said was very interesting there. All right, so here that is. We estimate now that the total addressable market for the Grad Plus program is about $14 billion. And given that we would be one of a handful of market participants and people who could originate in that space, we would have the ability to take out our fair share of that. And then again, there's that 2% number for home mortgages. Now, we've talked about this before, but this was a change that the government made here this year where they capped the amount that was eligible for grad loans and post-grad loans as well. And so for a lot of programs, they're not going to have nearly enough as if they need to just fund it through a student loan. On the public student loan side, they would look at private student loans. SoFi is, again, just one of a handful of lenders there. They're a leader there as well. And so I think that they're going to have a huge opportunity, just like Crystal Point intimated here. He mentioned doctors, lawyers, MBA students, nurses, and so forth. Those are expensive degrees that go far above and beyond what a degree would cost elsewhere. And so they're going to be looking for tapping into the private student loan market. So a great opportunity there as well. Now, the last bit of that, again, as we looked at these numbers, personal loans is the largest. And yeah, it's going to probably grow the slowest out of these three over the next year. But that's because it starts at a much higher number, and it's still going to go rapidly. Crystal Point made mention of this. He said that SoFi is turning down about 100 billion, that's billion with a B, of student loans, personal student loans right now, or at least on an annualized basis. Now, some of those are going through the loan platform business. They're doing originations of, I believe, about $3.4 billion right now as far per quarter. So that is scaled quite nicely. But regardless, he talked about tapping into just a small a portion of this. So he mentioned 5%, 10%, 15%. And if they just did that, that's an immense runway. Now, what does the math actually look at according to that? If you assume that they only get 5%, and they want to be careful there as far as it comes to opening up that credit box too far on personal loans, and they maybe have like a 3 to 4% take rate there. Let's assume 4%. We're looking at a $200 million opportunity just from that. Just that one little aspect of what they're already doing, what they're already offering, what is actually out there as far as interest and opportunity, which is really easy to hit and target. Now, they don't want to just grow through opening the credit box and expanding lending. They're being very careful as far as their capital constraints, making sure that they're well funded. They're above 20% ratio right now. So there's plenty of room for that. The last little bit is that Crystal Point kept mentioning the word optionality. What that basically implies is that they can do a lot of different things. Here's his exact comments. He said, so you said that our capital ratios or levels at 20% provides us with significant optionality to explore both inorganic and organic opportunities. Or inorganic, by the way, means merger and acquisition, which they were talking about here. And so we look at a number of assets every single day. There's nothing imminent at this point, but we will have a ton of optionality, particularly as we're heading into 2026. So in essence, what this means is, yeah, they can do a lot of different things, and they probably will do a combination of a number of items. I don't know that they're going to do a merger or acquisition. It doesn't sound like that they're thinking about it, but they're not anywhere close at all. They're just like, it's on the radar as one of those possibilities. But it seems to be the way that Crystal Point is talking is that they see the bigger opportunity just with what they're doing in-house, expanding the number of offerings that they have, going after more SoFi members that could be using their home loan products, that they can perhaps do some more loans as for personal loans and just do 5% of those that they're rejecting right now. Of course, they can get into other product categories for lending, and there's a lot of tailwinds that are happening, of course, behind student loans, a little bit around the home loans as well. And the loan platform business, talked a lot about it. It's still very, very bullish. So we had a great glimpse of what I felt like was looking at 2026. It gives us a better idea as well from Crystal Point's comments of how they will guide. And we were curious about that simply because, of course, the tranches of trying to get as far as their performance-based stock-based compensation by mid-year based on a volume-weighted average of the stock price. We were curious if they would start changing their tune and guiding a little bit more aggressively because they are notoriously conservative. It sounds like that they're not going to make any changes there at all. They just have long-term opportunities rather. And if they don't get the 35s and the 45 tranches, then I guess that's just fine. Although I think they'll probably get the 35s. Anyway, a really nice read in SoFi. It has immense tailwinds. I'm very excited at what this next year holds. And I don't really see a reason to change my price target, although I maybe wish I had made it 60 instead of 65, just because of what they're doing with EPS, that they're sacrificing over the short run for a better long-term runway. And I love that as a long-term investor. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was there any other takeaways that you had from the fireside chat? And if not, what are you looking for from SoFi in 2026? As always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing. Also, just a note, again, Fiscal AI sponsored this video. I'm going to put a link below in the video that's going to save you some money on Fiscal AI. You can check out the product yourself for a 2-week trial. I encourage you to do so if you've never played with it before. I think it's a fascinating tool. There's a ton that you can do with, and I'm just scratching the surface. But anyway, it's there for you if you'd like to give it a try. As always, thank you for watching, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, happy investing.